Joining me now to discuss all of this is independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We have to start with this political earthquake overnight and what it means more broadly. This win by Ocasio-Cortez, what should it tell people like Nancy Pelosi? Should they be afraid? Should incumbents everywhere be concerned?
I think that's not quite the right question. I think what it should tell the American people is that when you have candidates like Alexandria who have the guts to talk about the real issues impacting people's lives, she campaigned on health care as a right, not a privilege, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, demanding the wealthy start paying their fair share of taxes, making public colleges and universities tuition-free. That is an agenda that will resonate all over this country. Now, she happened to have the added advantage of being an extraordinarily good candidate. And despite being outspent 10-1, she was able to run a strong grassroots campaign and win. The message here is that when you have candidates who are talking about the real issues impacting working families and are running grassroots campaigns, they'll win in New York City. Yesterday, last night, they won in Maryland. Ben Jealous pulled off an upset, won a major victory to become the Democratic candidate for governor. We're seeing this happening all across the country.
And Senator, I guess the question, it was a big night for progressives. There's no doubt about that. But are voters also saying they want a fresh set of eyes to come to Washington and to help set the agenda? The messaging aside here is part of this saying, look, we want some newcomers.
No, I think that's media hype. I think what people want, what Alexandria did, she's 28 years old. That is fantastic. And we're seeing a whole lot of young people getting involved in Our Revolution organization, getting involved in grassroots campaign. But what's most important is not just that she is young. What's most important that she is standing up for working families. You could have young people who are conservative. What we need now is a movement in this country, and it is happening, of saying that we should not be living in a country where the three wealthiest people now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American society. That's wrong. Those are the issues we should be talking about.
Senator, one of the things that was so striking when you take a look at the campaign that she ran, which undoubtedly will be studied for years to come, is that she didn't make this about President Trump. Take a listen when she was asked about this on Morning Joe earlier today.
They weren't personal fights with Donald Trump. It was making the counter argument to his policies.
Right. I think that that's really the path forward. What we need to do is lay out a plan and a vision that people can believe in, and getting into Twitter fights with the president is not exactly, I think, where we're going to find progress as a nation.
So is her strategy the key to winning in Trump country, not only in 2018, but in 2020, to not necessarily be so focused on President Trump?
Well, that's just exactly what I said to you a moment ago. What she did is talk about the real issues facing her district, which happens to be a struggling working class district. So I think what Democrats have got to do is twofold. Number one, we do have to stand up to Trump's racism and his sexism and his homophobia and his xenophobia. You cannot allow that to pass. But more importantly, we need to lay out an agenda that says there is something wrong when we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all. That we have a president who wants to do away with the protections of people today who have pre-existing conditions. So if you have diabetes, if you have cancer, you're not going to be able to get health insurance. End the absurdity of the United States paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs while the drug companies make billions of dollars in profit. Those are the issues that will resonate.
Senator, when we listen to you, we're undoubtedly reminded of your own campaign. Your former campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, was asked about your ambitions. Are you going to throw your hat into the ring again? Take a listen to what he had to say, and then I'm going to ask you about this on the other side.
He is considering another run for the presidency, and you know, when the time comes, I think we'll have an answer for that. But right now, he's still considering it.
Senator, do you have an answer?
Well, the answer is we are focusing on 2018, which is the most important midterm elections in my lifetime. And I'm going to do everything that I can to see that we end one-party rule here in Washington, where Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House. That is where I am focusing on right now.
But after After the progressives had that strong night that we all witnessed last night, are you now more inclined to run again in 2020, Senator Sanders?
Right now, as I said, the next election, last I heard, is 2018. Goes before 2020. Let's focus on first things first.
Do you have a deadline for when you think you want to make a decision?
No, let's not. Let's talk about the issues impacting the American people. Alexandria won because she talked about real issues. That's what I intend to do, and that's what I hope every Democratic candidate does.
All right, let's talk about another big issue so that you want to stay focused on that is impacting Washington and really our political discourse. And that has to do with civility and lack thereof in a number of cases. We saw some protesters last night shouting down Mitch McConnell. I want to play you a little bit of that. Get your reaction on the other side.
Why are you separating families? Huh? Why are you separating families? Why are you separating families?
Why did you leave my husband alone?
Why are you separating families?
Why did you leave my husband alone?
I'm not trying to disrespect you, but why is he separating families?
He's not.
I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to disrespect you. He's separating families. He's separating families.
You
No. How does he sleep at night? How does he sleep at night? It is not a legal sign. How does he sleep at night? It is not legal.
Senator, are you concerned that there is a lack of civility in our political discourse and that it is not only something that we're seeing on the left or the right, but really we're just seeing tensions get very heated and we're failing to talk to each other? What do you do about that?
Well, I'm not a great fan of shouting down people or being rude to people. I think we have a situation now in a Congress which is way out of touch with where the American people are. And people have a right to be angry when Congress gives tax breaks to billionaires and then wants to cut nutrition programs for low-income pregnant women. You have a right to be angry. But take that anger out in a constructive way, and that means do exactly what Alexandria did last night. Get involved in campaigns so that we end one-party reactionary rule here in Washington. That's how you should take your anger out.
Senator, does that mean that you disagree with comments by Maxine Waters, that you disagree with kicking Sarah Sanders out of a restaurant? Are those both counterproductive actions?
Look, as I said before, I think people have a right to go into a restaurant and have dinner. We should be mobilizing our people in a way that creates the kind of movement we need to create a government here in Washington that represents all of us, not just the 1%. That's where we got to place our energy. I do know that people are angry. They're angry about these terribly inhumane immigration policies. They're angry about the fact that they can't afford prescription drugs. They're angry about tax breaks that go to billionaires. But the way to deal with that is exactly what Alexandria did: organize at the grassroots level, win elections, and get involved in the political process.
Senator, very quickly before I let you go, I have to get your reaction to today's Supreme Court ruling as it relates to unions. Is it the end of public service unions?
No, it is not, but it is a disastrous ruling. Obviously, you have a reactionary 5-4 majority on the Supreme Court, so it should surprise nobody that once again they rendered a decision which benefits the wealthy and the powerful and against the needs of working families. But I do not believe it is the end of public unions. We need a strong union movement in this country so that workers can negotiate decent wages and decent benefits and that they can play an important role in the political world.
All right, Senator Sanders, thanks for being here on such a big and important news day. We really appreciate your perspective.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.